Dear people who say things like, the climate is shifting in regard to cultural issues. No, it isn't. Not in the real world. I've touched on this before, but I must expound. The internet is becoming an increasingly radical place. Doesn't matter what you think about anything, which side of whatever you're on. If you are frequently engaged in online discourse, you are more radical than you'd otherwise be, period. That's all of us. We're all on the internet. We all see what's on the internet, and what we see on the internet is what makes effective use of the internet space, carving out its spot based on how it grabs our attention. And what grabs attention if not radical bullshit? Doesn't matter the subject. We amplify the craziest, most psycho-utopic, idealistically naive, and ignorantly passionate voices on the internet in every possible field, whether their earnest perspective moves us in a deep, irrationally instinctual level, or we just help circulate it to shit on them. We're constantly exposed to the worst that we have to offer, and it changes us slowly. We become accustomed to it, and whether we remain opposed to it or not, we come to accept it. It becomes familiar, and with familiarity comes comfort. It becomes satisfying to behold radical thought, because you either ridicule it, which makes you feel superior, which induces satisfaction, or it worms its way into your soul and you start to identify with it, and it feels good to share a visceral emotion with someone else. When a group of people are angry online, like really angry or emotionally upset, even if it's over something stupid, when you watch it, you can't help but feel a little connected to it, because the hurt and the pain and the raw emotions speak to something inside you that you've been societally taught to overcome. But who wouldn't want to just unbridle their emotions every once in a while and let them go off? Empathy for your fellow human can be distorting, and if you're exposed to it too much, you might just let it take over your sensibilities. Moral outrage feels vindicating. It feels like you're fighting a worthy fight, like you're working to overcome injustice, and that feeling doesn't need any sense of logical correctness to manifest. You could be 100% wrong and it wouldn't matter, because it's about feelings, and feelings are felt regardless of them being right or not. If you tell someone they're wrong to feel a certain way, does it ever make a difference? Feelings are fame whores. They want their 15 minutes and they'll take it however they can. It doesn't matter how you debunk them, discredit them, completely destroy their foundation. They are not leaving until their 15 minutes are up, and only then can rational thought retake the throne. Imagine your significant other is mad about something, and you explain to them that they shouldn't be because they misunderstood something or whatever it is. Let's say it's completely inarguable that you are correct and they just made some mistake. Even if they realize it, they don't show it right away, do they? There's hesitation. When you hold a perspective, you have inherent confirmation bias. It's unavoidable. And when your feelings are in play, they don't like being interrupted. People who are angry and upset need to be angry and upset to completion. It's a deep need. It's like stopping sex right before your orgasm, an aggravating cutoff that incurs dissatisfaction. But when you incorporate the internet and things like Twitter and Facebook and whatever, it's like you're putting your feelings in a stasis bubble and sending them out into the world in a frozen state of perpetual anguish. And that's all people see. They don't see your starting point, they don't see how you ramped up, and they don't see you calm down afterwards and move on. They only see the pinnacle, the climax of your negative feelings captured in cyberspace to be permanently preserved. In conclusion, social media is the root of several evils. Next topic. Here's a hot take. Bullying is one of the fairest and most impartial phenomenons in human society. It can happen to anyone for any reason, and the severity has nothing to do with the subject matter. I'll go deeper into that in a second, but for now I bring it up because bullying is often tied to or mistaken for oppression, and I want to loosely relate this to something I just saw on Twitter. So EVO is the world's largest tournament for fighting games, I believe. People come from all over the world to compete in different ones, from Smash Bros. To Street Fighter to Mortal Kombat and what have you. It's a huge event with massive acclaim, and placing well in it comes with lots of pedigree and is generally regarded as one of the biggest accomplishments in gaming as a whole. This is in stream of consciousness rather than my video game opinion series, because what I'm getting at doesn't actually relate to video games, but I have to set the scene anyway. So one of the biggest names in the fighting game community is SonicFox, who is a black gay furry, and the amount of times I'm going to mention that in this video pales in comparison to the amount of times he mentions it wherever he goes. I'm not identifying him in any way that he doesn't gleefully identify himself in whenever he gets the chance, which is precisely why I'm bringing it up to begin with. So SonicFox went and placed second in Dragon Ball FighterZ, which is what I still defiantly call that game, and then later that day he placed first in Mortal Kombat 11. He's a hell of a competitor, nobody's saying otherwise. When he placed second in DBFZ, he tweeted, I'm gay, I just placed second in Dragon Ball Fighter Z, or something to that effect. And then when he won MK11, he tweeted, I'm gay, I just won Mortal Kombat 11. I believe he received a Player of the Year award last year in esports, and in his acceptance speech he very cleverly said, I'm black, I'm gay, and I'm a furry, pretty much everything a Republican hates. So that's fucking dumb, for reasons I wish were obvious to more of the population. There are black Republicans. There are gay Republicans. Dare I say there are even furry Republicans. But anyway, my beef, if that's what you'd call it, with him sort of centering his whole existence on his own existential qualifiers, is that they have absolutely nothing to do with what he's accomplished. He's a fighting game god. One of, if not the best overall fighting game competitor in the scene today. And the fact that he's black, gay, and or a furry has jack shit to do with any of it. I don't believe he deserves to be celebrated for anything beyond his skills as a player. Who cares if he's gay? What did he have to overcome in the industry to get where he is? Were there tournaments he went to that were like, excuse me, are you a black gay furry? And he was like, yes, all three of those. And they were like, oh, sorry, we don't allow black gay furries to play Mortal Kombat here. It perpetuates an oppression myth of the industry, and it fools you if you don't think too hard about it, because you see this guy accomplish so much, and you think, wow, he's a black gay furry. He must have overcome so many obstacles to get here. What obstacles? All he had to do was get good at fighting games. They don't make the games harder for black people to play. They don't have gaydar installed to detect player homosexuality and make your combos worse in response, and they certainly don't search your internet history for furry porn and just lock you out of your PlayStation account if they find any. SonicFox's speech and his victory tweets have this air of, wow, I did it even though I'm black and gay and a furry, as if anybody should have previously thought those types of people could never achieve anything. I think that shit's blatantly harmful. In celebrating milestones for the wrong reasons, you're putting out this vibe of, if I can do it, you can do it too, which doesn't sound bad on paper, but people's responses to that shouldn't be, yeah, despite everyone keeping me down, I'll rise above too. They should be, well, of course I can. Why wouldn't I be able to? Is there something happening I don't know about? And the answer is no, there isn't anything, which is the point. Imagine you see someone walk across a small field. When they reach the end, they turn back to you like, whoa, I can't believe I managed to do that, but if you put your mind to it, I bet you can too. You'd be like, what the fuck? It's just walking. I can walk. I've walked my whole life. That attitude seems confusing for something that seems straightforward. That's when doubt naturally seeps in, and you're like, does he know something I don't? Is this a minefield? Was he dodging mines this whole time? What if I step on one? You're subtly making people think there are dangers in play that aren't there. When you say, if I can do it, you can too, while celebrating parts of your identity in defiance of whatever system you think is keeping you down, you're distorting the message behind it and turning it into something it isn't. It doesn't make a shred of difference if the winner of Evo is a black gay furry or a straight white Christian. Everyone competing is on the same level playing field, and their accomplishments shouldn't be tainted with this identitarian bullshit. You won because you're the best. That's it. So why did I go off on this seemingly unrelated tangent? Because even if SonicFox didn't encounter any discrimination in regard to his tournament life, maybe you assume he was bullied for being a black gay furry in school or in his neighborhood, so therefore he actually did overcome a lot to get where he is, and while I can't attest to whether that's true or not, even if he did, that wouldn't elevate him above anyone else in those tournaments, and the reason I say that goes back to my initial point. Bullying is one of the fairest and most impartial phenomenons in human society. It doesn't discriminate. It affects everyone that it affects, with the same qualities. To reiterate from a previous episode, bullying uses whatever ammunition is available. Even if you're bullied for being gay, it's the same kind of bullying anyone else would experience. They've just taken an aspect unique to you and turned it against you. That's what they do to everyone. Whether you're bullied for being gay, or for being a dweeb, or for liking anime, or being bad at sports, there's no difference in the nature of bullying from victim to victim. It's always to make you feel small or to make them feel big. I mean, if you're watching this and you're being bullied, and the bullies sometimes use your race or sexuality as ammunition, ask yourself this. If you weren't that race or that sexuality, Would you all of a sudden be one of the cool kids? Is your skin color or identity really the only thing holding you back from an A-plus school life with no worries and nothing to make fun of you for? I doubt it. Bullying doesn't discriminate, which is to say that it discriminates against everyone equally. It picks out what's different about a person and uses it. So a white kid might bully a black kid by using his race against him, or a black kid might bully a white kid by using his race against him. The systemic racism in bullying can be accessed by anybody. It's a fair system. Shitty, but fair, which is why I can't consider it a tool of oppression, because if I do, that means we're all oppressed. Anybody who's ever been bullied has been oppressed, and then the word holds no meaning for me after that. You'll hear minorities talk about oppression sometimes and mention how they were bullied for their skin color in school, and it's like, nah dude, that's not oppression, that's just school. What's worse, being called the N-word or having your backpack stolen and losing $300 worth of school supplies? Because that last one happens to white people too. Have you killed yourself as a result of bullying yet? I've seen people do that. I've seen them do it on video. Most of them were straight white kids. Makes your school-born oppression seem pretty minuscule in comparison. But it's not a competition. And this isn't a race war. It's about understanding that everyone goes through shit and not trying to outdo each other on the victimhood test. That's not an exam worth studying for, and it's not one you want to win. I do not like separating people based on their race or orientation. It really bothers me that some people have embraced that shit. We have differences, but those differences aren't worth separate categories for each of us where we only trust people from our own category or we judge each other on the merits of their categories. That's what fucking racists do. And a difference in politics makes even the most liberal, diversity-obsessed people think it's okay to be abject racist towards minorities if they don't think like them. I follow several black Republicans on Twitter. You should see the shit they have to put up with from some members of this supposed party of tolerance. They're called Uncle Toms, props, bootlickers. God forbid one of them holds up a sign at a Trump rally so everyone can remark about how they must have been paid to sell out their own kind, because how crazy would it be to recognize that black people can think for their fucking selves politically? And of course, not all progressives are like that, whatever, obviously, but I refuse to engage with people who pretend all the racists are on the right. You've got to be under the biggest rock in history to think so. I'm fed up with that shit. I'm fed up with people blaming all white people whenever there's a white supremacist mass shooting. Blame white supremacy. Everybody's on Twitter like, what's wrong with white people? And another white guy, of course. And then some of you in response will be like, oh, now you know how Muslims feel, as if I ever didn't. Extremism is the problem. Muslims who don't shoot crowds of people and blow themselves up are not responsible for it. White people who don't shoot crowds of people and throw firebombs are not responsible for that. Stop drawing race-based conclusions on entire groups of people due to the actions of the tiniest possible subset of them. Now that it's come out that the Dayton shooter was an Antifa supporter who loved socialism and Elizabeth Warren, you've seen coverage of that shit drop tremendously. CNN's like the only non-right-wing network addressing those facts, which blows me away that even they're doing it. But then you see people in the comments excusing it, like, yeah, he supported Antifa and was a socialist, but the shootings weren't politically motivated. I applaud your extremely selective and hypocritical nuance, guys, because if that dude had so much as a MAGA hat in an Instagram picture from 2 years ago, you'd change your tune faster than a saxophone player on bath salts. I make no excuses for terrorism. That's what separates me from a lot of self-described good people. White supremacist terrorism is bad, anti-fascist terrorism is bad. When a shooting happens, these days people look for a why. They have to have a why. And not only do they have to have a why, they have to have a satisfactory why. They have to have a why that satiates their need for conclusive ideological condemnation. And if one isn't openly presented to them, they will look deeper and try to guess why, and draw their own conclusions for their own benefit, whether they have any bearing in truth or not. People especially want a political motive that opposes their own. That's the golden trout. That's the best thing they could possibly hope for. While the worst thing is a political motive that aligns with their own, and if that happens, then clearly the political motive must be irrelevant and is discarded in favor of something less close to home. I'll tell you why mass shootings happen. It's because these people are disturbed on an individual level. They feel empty, purposeless, isolated, enraged, unheard, and/or deeply wronged, and almost every single time it's because of trauma or neglect. These people are prone to radicalization, whether it's left or right wing. Radicalization gives you singular purpose and doesn't care how fucked up you are. That's as welcoming as some people are ever going to feel, so it's no wonder it happens. But no matter how empty or stupid or angry you are, you have agency as a human being, and that's why every mass shooting is the fault of one person, and one person only, the shooter. If ideologies encourage it, they should be condemned, but at the end of the day, only one person chose to pull that trigger. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you can like, share, and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter at Sunburned Albino, and I'll see you guys next time.